and when he plays. So should be great to see what they have in store for us. So the bans have come in, and WaningMoon's actually banned out the Spell
Oh,
Hunter.
wait, what? I graded out everything as if he was going to ban the Warlock, but he banned Spell Hunter. Now, Spell Hunter has, the flare, so obviously, assuming he goes into the series and just does a typical Warlock ban, he would be unfavored considering that the Spell Hunter has the huge edge over the Secret Mage if it's able to line up correctly. But he chooses to throw in a Hunter ban. So let me redo this real quick. So, Ja, what do you think happens from here?
Well, I can see the Hunter ban if he feels like his Secret Mage has a good shot against the Warlock, which we were just talking about a while ago, though, and you said that Warlock, when piloted by the best players and when the deck lists are open, has actually a pretty good matchup against Secret Mage. So it's still something that's really up to debate. So I'd like to see how Dustin pilots that matchup.
Yeah, there was a show match that Firebat put on between RDU, who a lot of people respect, just in terms of all-around good play and one of the most historically best players from Europe. And then you have APX Void, who's just like a mage specialist and lives and died by the Tempo Mage.
Yeah.
He played Secret Mage, and they played head-to-head for several games. And it wasn't the biggest of sample sizes, but the important thing is that Cube Warlock, when they know the deck list of Mage, has a lot of game against the list, even though there's a lot of mix-ups between the explosive runes and the counter spell. So I think that if you have an open decklist format, it's a much different environment than Ladder, which changes the dynamics significantly from your mulligans to the knowledge of decklist and your overall strategy.
100%. And also it comes down to them being able to pilot the deck with as much experience as RDU, and who's a player that has been active every year on a big stage, whereas Hearthstoner still kind of unproven, untested in lands. So I'd like to see if he's able to kind of step up to the plate.
Yeah, starting to get a little intense. I think you can see the focus narrowing in. So I kind of redid and reevaluated the grid. It looks a little worse for WaningMoon when he doesn't ban the Warlock, at least in theory, because the idea is that the Warlock is really good against pretty much everything. So you're giving yourself less percentages in that case. But we could look at the tech a little bit differently. Do we see anything in the deck lists, individual cards, that could help turn matchups? We're looking at the Murloc Paladin. It seems like WaningMoon has Fungal Mancer. That's the big card of focus in his list. For his Combo Priest, he has Mass Dispel. And for the Secret Mage, it's fairly standard. So it doesn't seem like he has anything in particular up his sleeve here.
Yeah, aside from the Mass Dispel, I don't see how it's particularly supposed to help against the Warlock. Maybe Fungal Mancer inclusion can help just some boards stay out of Hellfire Rage, but it seems really difficult to stick to things going into turn 5 for that. So maybe WaningMoon just has a bit more experience dealing with the Warlocks, I'd say, on ladder, maybe as compared to Spell Hunter. And that's something we can talk about, that sometimes even when the numbers say strictly that this is the better ban, if you're more experienced in a certain matchup, that can give you less negative percentage than the bad matchup would.
There's some other matches happening, by the way. This is not the only one going on, but we do have only one stream for the broadcast. We're playing some of the matches in the lower bracket and the winners off stream, because there are, dozens of matches that they play with 16 players double elimination. We're only going to do 10 series today, only 10, air quotes, and then 7 tomorrow. We're going to mainly focus on the winners bracket and then dip a little bit to the losers tomorrow as well. So you can follow along with us at the Battlefight brackets. Just head on over to either the social media, HSE Sports, Blizzard ANZ, or check out Battlefight directly through the subreddit, for example, and check on how the players are doing. And I know there's a lot of Hearthstone tournaments going on as well. As we get ready for the first game in the series, WaningMoon from the Philippines, Hearthstoner from the ANZ region, and we're going to start off with Priest Mirrors. Yeah, this matchup's pretty explosive if one person draws very well and the other person draws fairly average.
And it's also such a delicate dance of how much you're willing to pile health onto your minions, because your opponent has the potential to switch up their attack into range of Potion of Madness and then steal that and use it against you. So at this point, I think in the mulligan, both players are just looking to have something to do and get draws. You don't really want to have just the combo pieces, obviously, early. And this is one of the matchups where you'd like to have Twilight Drake. In more aggressive matchups, you would definitely go for Dustbreaker a bit more. and Twilight Drake usually, you don't have it in hand long enough to be buffed by all these other cards because you're playing the small things here. So speaking of which, Waning Moon has it in hand.
At the same time, Hearthstoner has that early game curve, which can help get him that card draw through the Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening here.
The funny thing is that Cleric Shield, oftentimes if it's played like from turn 1 to turn 2, just sticks throughout most of the game because at 5 health, it's out of Dustbreaker range, and most of the Priest minions can't just trade it away until its operative turn.
Yeah, they don't really run the traditional removal packages for all those cheap minions like Shadow Word Pain, unless they have some weird silence tech in it as well. WaningMoon can just go for the Power Word Shield and acknowledge the fact that it's most likely this Northshire Cleric is going to stick somehow. Oh. Draws Inner Fire, hesitates just to think about it at least.
Yeah, so the thing here is that playing Inner Fire would prevent Hearthstoner from getting a free draw off of the Cleric trade, but it seems like it's a little premature, even though you have double Inner Fire, and technically you only need one once you have enough Divine Spirits to finish out the game. But I don't mind holding it here.
Yeah, he has Cabal Town Priest as well to even stack
right.
a bigger minion if he wants to. And on the flip side, how can Hearthstoner punish? Wow!
Ooh.
Divine Spirit off the top.
Oh my goodness. So he's just going for it straight out here, and it's going to get punished by the Twilight Acolyte. But I'm not sure how often you respect the Acolyte when you can start essentially winning the game in 3 turns.
Thought about going face, and it's, kind of tempting to to go for face with just, a third of their health. But you recognize that if you can just win the board convincingly, it won't matter. But yeah, that Twilight Acolyte's going to come up huge here. And Hearthstoner does have a second Northshire Cleric, so that can pile on the card draw and help him recover.
Right, I guess he went for this play knowing that, oh my goodness, even the Circle of Healing, knowing that the only punish is not even that bad for him because he has this refill.
And funny enough, with the Circle of Healing, it's gives him 2 more mana, but doesn't seem like he drew anything else.
Yeah, I was wondering why he didn't go for the hero power there. Circle would be good in the future, perhaps, when he could take some value trades. So now it's super awkward. Don't think you really want to trade in a 2-10 here, but then again, that 10-4 is getting pretty scary. So trading this way essentially sets things. Wow.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
That's creative. And you know what? It doesn't get punished by the Dustbreaker, which a lot of times is the turn 4 punish for a lot of things in board states. Really nice out-of-the-box thinking. Healing my opponent's 10-attack minion on
no
turn
fear.
3. I like that.
It is going to get punished by Talon Priest, I suppose, though, because then WaningMoon can take the value trade on the Cleric and still have it out of range of the other Cleric.
Right, not having to heal it.
Yeah, and even Dustbreaker if it were to come into hand. So Hearthstoner playing from behind.
Yeah, behind definitely is underselling it, I think, at this point. But we'll see if WaningMoon can continue on this pressure here, because at the same time, actually,
can take 2 value trades and just drop the operative.
Operatives looks really good here.
I guess he could be thinking about, is there a way to protect my 10-5 from Dustbreaker if it were to come down? But I feel like it's a bit greedy. That 10-5 has put in quite a bit of work. So I just like clearing off the board. And the thing is, lowering the health on his own minions prevents, like, this may be far off, but like a lot of the times in the mirror, you would kind of keep your own minions' health a bit lower when you don't have the OTK yet, so that your opponent doesn't have the opportunity to use Swap Man and Potion of Madness to pull the rug out from underneath you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although Hearthstone already has used 1 Divine Spirit, 1 Inner Fire.
Yeah.
So the cheese potential is a lot less. WaningMoon crossing his fingers for no Dustbreaker, and that is going to be just a Draconode Operative for the tempo.
And Hearthstoner finally picking it up from WaningMoon's deck, but WaningMoon has quite a few ways to at least put in a lot of damage here. And I guess dropping the Twilight Drake would make it so that at least one thing survives through Dustbreaker combined with the trade from the operative.
He's got 10 if he doubles, and Inner Fires, that's 12, 22, 25.
Yeah, so close.
very, very close, and I don't think Shadow Visions can help him.
Well, if he gets Power Word Shield, then it would be 29. Right? So still not quite there.
I wonder.
In that case, do you like just starting off with the Historian and Drake?
Yeah, Historian seems relatively innocuous. I don't think the 3 health will really matter that much. Temporis. Gosh.
That's a card that you take in some matchups, but
It
definitely
is.
not this one.
In any priest deck, specifically, that is the most viable, it is an Inner Fire or Divine Spirit Inner Fire deck, for sure.
And WaningMoon not having to trade there, knowing that there was no combination of cards from Hearthstoner there that could have won him the game from that mana cost, or rather mana restriction of 6, so it's pretty fine doing that.
Job's done.
Yep. Hearthstone looking for better ways to remove and control the state of the board. WaningMoon looking for any way to heal and get that Drake back up to 6 life, so that way he could double an Inner Fire for the close.
Looking like he's just gonna go for draw, creeper, heal up, and don't see much reason to trade.
Yeah, no Circle of Healing, so his Radiant Element, or sorry, his Shadow Visions couldn't pick it up. Powered Shield effectively just heals.
Yeah, it's not enough mana to heal Powered Shield, Divine, and Inner Fire all in one turn. Although that would have been lethal. He's 1 mana short. I still think it's the pick though, because the other things aren't really doing much. At the very least, Powered Shield will be Cycle.
Yes, because the only other spell that he could look for would be his Master Spell outside of this, right? Because he's been holding on to this Inner Fire for a while. So if he wants to dig again, he could hold on to that Shadow Vision just in case. Kidding, you can't draw it anymore with the Shadow Visions.
So playing the Engineer here over the heal seems to be a lack of respect for second Dustbreaker. Well, he knew that the first Dustbreaker came from his own deck, so maybe he had some read that it wasn't in hand. But Bookworm gonna save Hearthstoner from disaster here. Although WaningMoon at least still has a decent health minion to play.
Yeah, the Primordial Drake does put out the biggest stats, and if it doesn't go contested, then it will end the game.
So Hearthstoner can clear this by healing up, playing Talon Priest and Inner Fire, but that is his second Inner Fire, I believe.
We also drew Dustbreaker. I'm trying to look for a way to use that, but it doesn't look like it.
I'm interested to know why he didn't go for the clear there. I guess playing around the combo plus a silence for the taunt is a little bit much, but that will cost him the game here, because even if he trades into the Drake, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, Master Spell will close it out.
It's true. It's not even, well, he doesn't trade, so it's not even the silence in a combo. It's just silence plus Inner Fire, which he just used Shadow Visions to use, so you could maybe even guess that.
Yeah.
And look at that. A little extra whipped cream on top of the cake here. I like that. Inner Fire with Divine Spirit, 16. And WaningMoon gets off on the right foot, getting a pretty big victory.
Yeah, it seems like of any deck where you have the capability to BM, this is the deck that's most tempting to BM with, just because big numbers
You
are
sure?
very fun.
You think this is the deck that tempts you the most?
Yeah.
I think there are, I can name like a dozen. There's like Exodia Mage. Come on, you clear everything. You fireball yourself, you fireball Antonidas, you fireball your own Sorcerer's Apprentice.
There's risk of error in those. These ones, it's kind of like automatic that you go for the double divine, triple divine when you have it, and then you just smack in the face for 128 or something like that.
I can see that. I can see that. The Dragon Priest, though, was definitely one of the better decks here in WaningMoon's arsenal. At the same time, we'll look at how good his lineup is against Warlock. That's the big thing. I was kind of expecting Hearthstone to maybe start off with Warlock.
Yeah, just because it seems like it would be the most free of any of his decks to get a win. And if I were Hearthstoner, I'd still be confused why it was left up, but seems like WaningMoon has a game plan, and so far it's been working out.
So in the end, a lot of these risks that Hearthstoner went out and got, it seemed like he kind of ran to a few punishes directly, like talking about healing his opponent's minion,
Yeah.
and then trying to go for a little bit more risky plays, which end up costing him the game directly.
Yeah, even the very first, or was it turn 2, where he went for the giant cleric to face play. I'm still not sure. Like, people debate on whether it's correct to just go for the early win there when the only punish is Twilight Acolyte, which is not a keep. But if it's there, it hurts you so much that you can just fall behind for the rest of the match, which is what happened with Hearthstoner. Even though he had so much card draw, he just couldn't get a hold of the board.
Right. Well, he knows that there's no 0 mana silence in WaningMoon's deck too, so that even reduces the amount of possible ways that he could get punished for it. So it is specifically Twilight Acolyte in that spot, or else WaningMoon had to stall with like a Tar Creeper. But that is in the past. Now we go to the Secret Mage versus the Murloc Paladin, a matchup that Murloc Paladin has given Secret Mage a lot of problems because of how fast it can get out to the board, assuming it can win the board. Hearthstoner keeps a Rallying Blade in respect to all the 3 health minions that Secret Mage has. WaningMoon weighing what he wants to keep here along with his Cabal Lackey.
Yeah, Explosive Room seems like it should be pretty useful. Counterspell, if it can land on a Call to Arms, is really insane, especially when your opponent is off coin, so they don't have a convenient way of proccing it. Usually they just do that by Hydrologist Secrets. But in this case, it seems like he really wants to go for more minions to play instead of being reactive. Although on the coin, he might be a bit more tempted to do that.
Well, by keeping a second secret, he does open up a possibility of picking up pretty big tempo swings through like a Kirin Tor Mage. But he chooses to keep the counter spell and throw away the explosive runes. Now that's interesting.
Guess it's in respect of something like Argent Protector, which is one of the most annoying minions for the mage to deal with.
Yeah, that is true. The Divine Shields really nullify a lot of the explosive runes potential. It does get you the damage, which sometimes is nice, but only in the late stages of the game. Oh, Purifier's Maul is fantastic.
Yeah,
against most of what Mage does.
Mage already struggles with dealing with wide boards, and one of the few ways they can do that is to get some sort of AoE off of Primordial Glyph. But even if that happens for WaningMoon, he will have to deal with some form of Divine Spirited minions to get through it. However, the turn 1 Lackey play, and because Hearthstoner was playing Chum instead of having like an Inquisitor, means that he was still at least able to deal with the first Murloc, but the rest of these is gonna get a bit dicey.
I got flashbacks to Coghammer from Goblins vs. Gnomes when it came out and added a Divine Shield to random minion as a 2/3 weapon. That was exactly the kind of tempo swings that allowed you to build upon the pressure of the board. And then, of course, yeah, TGT release with Mysterious Challenger, and the rest was history. WaningMoon picks up this Arcanologist, which is the other play that he has, except for coining out the Cabal Crystal Runner. Which do you like here?
So Arcanologist allows you to fit in a ping if you're gonna coin with it, and that ideally, if Hearthstoner were to get rid of the Arcanologist, he'd have to trade something into it, which would leave it at ping range for the next turn. But it seems a little bit slow, so he's just not gonna respect the Blessing of Kings or something here.
Yeah, I think the logic is that...
because of the counter spell.
Yeah. Well, also because the ping can still be played, can still be used afterwards anyways, but... he picks up the Primordial Glyph.
That may be his only saving grace, like a early Flame Strike. He can afford to take one more turn of, like, in his perspective, knowing that there's no second Divine Shield giver in hand. But he doesn't even get the option for AoE here, so these are quite awful. Ice Barrier, yes, it helps you survive for a while, same with Freezing Potion, but it doesn't solve the overarching problem of the board. It seems like Hearthstoner is going to run away with this pretty quick. Is there an argument for Mirror Entity if you get, what do you expect on turn 5, like a Sword or something? That's still not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're completely on the money here. Hearthstoner picks up another Murloc, And Purifier's Maul is just going to add so much resilience to the board.
Yeah,
I think that's part of the problem with playing things like Secret Mage. If you ever fall behind on the board early on, it just feels like you don't have much game in getting it back. So you have to all in and pressure the life total. But WaningMoon's in no position to do that. He's 5 turns away from being able to play Pyroblast. That is just not going to happen.
Yeah, and WaningMoon, he did mention himself that he kind of regretted bringing Secret Mage because in an aggressive field, this is the aggro deck that struggles the most against boards that go wide, and no deck does that better than Paladin. So again, Secret Mage, outside of trying to pull a miracle from Primordial Glyphs, just don't have many comeback mechanisms. But yeah, not that much to say here. It's going to be pretty straightforward from here on out. I guess what can be the out? The second Primordial Glyph into like... Yeah, nothing deals with the Divine Spirit, Divine Shields very well.
This is 6 damage onto the board. It becomes 8 or 9 if he wants to Rock Pull Hunter. Hearthstone is being very careful not to get a little too hasty with his Rock Pull Hunter, it looks like. Is he? Right, testing the Primordial Glyph Secret as well.
To be honest, I don't think there's very much that he has to play around. Even given an Ice Block and a turn of Burn, WaningMoon still couldn't assemble enough burn on 7 mana to get there over 2 turns. So yeah, he recognizes it, and Hearthstoner evens it up.
Hearthstoner takes game number 2, and that could be just the beginning of the end for WaningMoon, even though it's just game 2. It's tied 1-1. Secret Mage definitely struggles a lot in this series, and that could be why Hearthstoner's not trying to play Warlock. He doesn't want Mage to get out easily by going up against his Warlock. So he's just going to reserve it, force the Mage out, and then play everything else, and then the Warlock last, if possible.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the age-old debate of whether queue order matters, but it definitely feels like in this meta, it kind of does. That if your Mage can get the win on the Warlock, then, well, it doesn't have to give the Paladin a free win.
Well, I mean, it matters if it ends up happening.
Yeah.
that's the argument there. But WaningMoon felt pretty powerless that game. I mean, there's when you play some of these matchups, especially one as important as it is for the first 2 turns of the game, it just felt like once the Murlocs got something stickied, and then you have Purifier's Maul come down with Divine Shields, it really felt like Secret Mage couldn't do anything. And then you kind of compound that with the fact that he's playing a lot of late game options like Medivh and Pyroblast, which got into his hands somehow again. And sometimes you get games like that. It's just a wash. Throw it away, try again. We'll see what happens for game number 3.
Yeah, I think the story is all about whether the Secret Mage can get through, but WaningMoon still has his own Paladin, and I kind of want to see that in action just because I want to see Fungal Mancer hit the board.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely pretty big on the Fungal Mancers. I think that card is underrated. I don't think it's as insane as Bone Mirror anywhere close to it. It's just that it's always like, once you lose to it, you always stop and look at yourself. You think, oh man, did I really lose to this card?
Yeah.
And yes, you did.
That's just one of those cards that nobody expects to be great, but with the nerf to Bone Mare, people were starting to look into other options, and also the fact that it's able to come down earlier and really compound boards that go wide rather than tall, which is quite useful in this meta. I can see why people like to include it. However, it will be the Secret Mage again for WaningMoon, this time going up against the combo Dragon Priest.
So Secret Mage versus Dragon Combo Priest. What's the most important thing here for the Dragon Priest? Is it the Dustbreaker?
Yeah, definitely. Having that just absolutely blows out the early minion pressure from the Mage, which is what they need to have enough momentum to be able to just use burn spells to close out the remainder of the game. We don't see a Dragon or a Dustbreaker in hand for Hearthstoner here. But with the Inner Fire and the ever-present Cleric on 1, if he's able to draw into like a Power Word Shield, this could be pretty good for Hearthstoner. And even if he doesn't, Coin Talon Priest, looking pretty good. Oh, Coin Tar Creeper here. I guess this respects something like just a value trade of the... Actually, I don't know. If you value trade, you would still need to have a Frostbolt to finish it off. In which case, Frostbolt would still kill it this way. I don't know. I kind of like Talon Priest a bit better there because you have Inner Fire.
I guess this gives him flexibility for the Talon Priest next turn, depending on what his opponent plays. But if it's the Kirin Tor Mage Explosive Runes, I guess you'd rather have the Tar Creeper that way, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So like you'd rather have the Tar Creeper if the Explosive Runes comes out, which is exactly the case.
You wish to live forever.
Inner Fire there would have been pretty good to get value trade off on the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but of course Hearthstoner doesn't know whether that's a counterspell or not, so he decides to go for the decent, no matter which secret it is, play of Talon Priest here. Makes sense.
I think the payoff is like might be even a little bit better too if it was counterspell in that position, because then he could be better positioned to trade onto the board for like value trades because he sticks to health, and then the Tar Creeper has you know, even options to pressure or take up value trades if he plays the Cabal Crystal Runner this turn.
Yeah, the only I guess benefit to not playing around counterspell is just being able to fit in the extra draw, but when you're playing against Secret Mages, there's no need to take huge risks like this when you have a decent compromise play anyway. So now Waning Moon, very awkward that he doesn't have a clean answer for this. He would love to have at least a Fireball, but just gonna settle for getting rid of the threat and still presenting something that can deal with the Cleric.
Yeah, that 3-8 or 1-8 rather could represent lethal if he wasn't careful, you know.
Awkward for Hearthstoner though that he had no more health buffs to try and deal with this Apprentice, so it's actually just gonna stick. Potion of Madness is probably gonna come down to clear 2 minions next turn though.
Was there any viability to just using Inner Fire to clear that at all?
And trading away the Cleric? I don't know. You could even Inner Fire the Apprentice and draw by trading into it, but that seems a bit much.
Well, yeah, I think he needed to get the Dragon with the Historian because of Draconid Operative coming down next turn. But yeah, there's just something to think about. Probably not going to be useful. Just that he had 2 of them and he's stuck in his hand now. WaningMoon picks up the Arcanologist, and that's just good to keep the card drawing, because one of the big questions is whether or not he had enough resources. Arcane Intellect's great, but needs a little bit more.
Intellect's just there to draw you into Alaneth, which is your real draw. So, yeah, gonna be Mana Worm, and I expect the Secret, actually, because this is Draconid Operative turn, so... It also has the potential of making Hearthstoner a bit more hesitant about playing Potion of Madness right away. He might even test with Inner Fire.
Right, let's see what's behind the door.
Fireland seems pretty good to me. The others just suck, so... Yes.
I mean, I guess there's a case for Cabal Crystal Runner just being a very meaty minion guaranteed. But Fireland's Portal is such good tempo swings.
Yeah, the fact stands that Hearthstoner has nothing to do proactively next turn, but seems like Potion of Madness and some other thing could help him at least deal with what's gonna turn into a pretty meaty Mana Worm. Actually, if he uses Potion of Madness to clear the Mana Worm, he would have to invest an Inner Fire as well, which I don't think is too bad because he has 2 of them.
We have many secrets.
Counterspell, gonna make life awkward though.
One way to get around it, silence the test for the counterspell.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most convenient ways, if not the most convenient way for priests to deal with these Secret Mage secrets.
Yeah,
even outside of Dragon Combo Priest. I remember back in the day when you'd play Raza Priest even against Tempo Mage, like you'd hold on to like Silence or Circle of Healing to proc counter spells and not necessarily for the value of the actual spell. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Just gonna be Hearthstoner playing the Firelands Portal next turn, and WaningMoon hoping to get to his Alaneth, because as it stands, the burn in his hand is just not going to get there.
Yeah, and a lot of people might think, well, obviously he wants to play Counterspell to stop the Firelands Portal, but the thing about it is that he also wants to get Medivh Valet value as well. So by letting go this secret, there's a chance that he can't get Medivh Valet beyond just a 2-mana 2/3.
Right, and WaningMoon doesn't really know that it's Firelands Portal in particular, so kind of unfortunate that it worked out that way, but you can't blame him for holding on to the Counterspell there. So having picked up Fireball Frostbolt, seems like he can start going face with this. Yes, he's leaving a 7 health minion on board, but I feel like if he invests too much burn into clearing the Nesting Rock, then he's just leaving himself too vulnerable to something like Dustbreaker to deal with the board, and then with the hand that he has, he doesn't have the minions to start going back. So I think it's time to start going face.
There's 10 damage this turn with the spells plus the 2 on the Mana Worm, so it's 14. And he has 3 with the Medivh Valet. Still short by a little bit. Chooses to clear instead. And as you mentioned, if the Dustbreaker comes up, it's going to be a big problem. But WaningMoon is going to take that risk anyways, because I think he understands that he needs recursive damage with that Mana Worm.
So not quite a Dustbreaker, but Primordial Drake going to make things very awkward for WaningMoon here.
Ooh.
Where is that Pyroblast when he needs it? Okay, we take those.
Yeah, that's much better than Pyroblast in this position. And then I guess you could part ways with the Secret, because chances are you're going to draw another one, but choose to ping instead. Trying to get every bit of damage out.
Yeah, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So Counterspell guaranteed to get the Valet value, and that is just a hand of a lot of fiery cards.
Yeah, 21 damage, but is this a lot of damage as well?
Oh my gosh.
22 coming in! So it's a race to the finish. And Hearthstoner is going to put WaningMoon on his last turn unless he can generate something right now.
Ice block?
Ice block or some way to stall. That's a Cabal Crystal Runner that was drawn.
And that's going to be the game.
Is there a Firelands Portal minion that can bail him out here?
Earth Elemental, I think.
That would...
Or any taunt that has more than 2 health, and I don't think there is a 5-mana minion with taunt that has 2 health, so... It's, what, Firelands on the Talon Priest, and when he plays, so should be great to see what they have in store for us. So the bans have come in, and WaningMoon's actually banned out the Spell Hunter.
Wait, what? I graded out everything as if he was going to ban the Warlock, but he banned Spell Hunter. Now, Spell Hunter has, the flares, so obviously, assuming he goes into the series and just does a typical Warlock ban, he would be unfavored, considering that the Spell Hunter has the huge edge over the Secret Mage, if it's able to line up correctly. But he chooses to throw in a Hunter ban. So let me redo this real quick. So, Ja, what do you think happens from here?
Well, I can see the Hunter ban if he feels like his Secret Mage has a good shot against the Warlock, which we were just talking about a while ago, though, and you said that Warlock, when piloted by the best players and when the deck lists are open, has actually a pretty good matchup against Secret Mage. So it's still something that's really up to debate. So I'd like to see how Dustin pilots that matchup.
Yeah, there was a show match that Firebat put on between RDU, who a lot of people respect, just in terms of all-around good play and one of the most historically best players from Europe. And then you have APX Void, who's just like a mage specialist and lives and died by the Tempo Mage.
Yeah.
He played Secret Mage, and they played head-to-head for several games. And it wasn't the biggest of sample sizes, but the important thing is that Cube Warlock, when they know the deck list of Mage, has a lot of game against the list, even though there's a lot of mix-ups between the explosive runes and the counter spell. So I think that if you have an open decklist format, it's a much different environment than Ladder, which changes the dynamics significantly from your mulligans to the knowledge deck list and your overall strategy.
100%, and also it comes down to them being able to pilot the deck with as much experience as RDU, and who's a player that has been active every year on a big stage, whereas Hearthstoner still kind of unproven, untested in lands. So I'd like to see if he's able to kind of step up to the plate.
Yeah, starting to get a little intense. I think you can see the focus narrowing in. So I kind of redid and reevaluated the grid. It looks a little worse for WaningMoon when he doesn't ban the Warlock, at least in theory, because the idea is that the Warlock is really good against pretty much everything. So you're giving yourself less percentages in that case. But we could look at the tech a little bit differently. Do we see anything in the deck lists, individual cards, that could help turn matchups? We're looking at the Murloc Paladin. It seems like WaningMoon has Fungal Mancer. That's the big card of focus in his list. For his combo priest, he has Mass Dispel. And for the Secret Mage, it's fairly standard. So it doesn't seem like he has anything in particular up his sleeve here.
Yeah, aside from the Mass Dispel, I don't see how it's particularly supposed to help against the Warlock. Maybe Fungal Mancer Inclusion can help just some boards stay out of Hellfire, but it seems really difficult to stick to things going into turn 5 for that. So maybe WaningMoon just has a bit more experience dealing with Warlocks, I'd say, on ladder, maybe as compared to Spellhunter. And that's something we can talk about, that sometimes even when the numbers say strictly that this is the better ban, if you're more experienced in a certain matchup, that can give you less negative percentage than the bad matchup would.
There's some other matches happening, by the way. This is not the only one going on, but we do have only one stream for the broadcast. We're playing some of the matches in the lower bracket and the winners off stream, because there are, you know, dozens of matches they have to play with 16 players double elimination. We're only going to do 10 series today, only 10, air quotes, and then 7 tomorrow. We're going to mainly focus on the winners bracket and then dip a little bit to the losers tomorrow as well. So you can follow along with us at the Battlefy brackets. Just head on over to either the social media, HSE Sports, Blizzard ANZ, or check out Battlefy directly through the subreddit, for example, and check on how the play. Welcome back, everybody, from Sydney, Australia, as we get ready for the 4th game between WaningMoon and Hearthstoner. That's right, that is what he calls himself. And my name is Frodan. I am joined by Ja, and we're going to get the conclusion of the series pretty soon, either this game or the next game. So what's your kind of reading halfway through the series, Ja, after we watch 3 games?
Well, I feel like even though the Warlock hasn't been played yet, I still feel like it should have been banned. But the more important thing is that Secret Mage has been struggling a lot. And we heard regret from WaningMoon himself about bringing the deck. And it's pretty unfortunate that he didn't go with his kind of initial inclination to bring Spellhunter.
Yeah, Hearthstoner really anxious to get this series over with, it looks like, and back over to the comfy beanbag back room. That's where everyone's chilling, There's a bunch of couches and beanbag chairs and food and snacks and warmth and other Hearthstone people to judge your plays. That's what they all do, man. The players just sit there making fun of each other behind their backs.
Yeah,
and then they say it to
100%.
their face, to be honest. Like when Alchemaker missed Lethal earlier today, it was a very inconsequential one because he was so far ahead. But he's still getting ripped into, you know? every like 10 minutes, people are just making fun of him. Like,
Yeah,
oh, Miss Lethal Maker.
The second you leave the stage, it's not like you get congrats. It's like, what the heck was that play?
Yeah, it's brutal.
Why didn't you
back
do
there.
this?
It's great. I mean, I'm just chewing on my apples and bananas there, just furiously watching what's going on.
Oh, you were having the fruit. I was having the shapes. All the great Australian treats.
Tim Tams, Yim Yams, Jim Jams. Love it all. WaningMoon's going to go on Secret Mage again because he recognizes that he needs to get this win against the Warlock, but that's what Hearthstoner has led to this point. Has the Cobalt Librarian and the Spellstone. That's really important for early game survival, and even having the Mistress of Mixtures as a way to offset the explosive runes damage.
Right, and because Hearthstoner is going first, it means that WaningMoon's Mana Worm would be vulnerable to the trade with the Cobalt if a Mortal Coil were in hand. Thankfully for WaningMoon, it's not. And he has a very, very explosive start. We saw this from, was it Angry Carp last series?
Yes,
and
exactly this one.
That got out of hand real quick. So the Skull could help in quite a few turns to bring out an early Void Lord, as so many people are familiar with and dread. But WaningMoon has pretty much the greatest opener he could ask for, and Arcanologist for great follow-up, although it seems like getting as much damage as possible early on makes a bit of sense.
Yeah, I think the fact that you want to rush your opponent down, because eventually they're going to win the board and lock you out, so you want to get their life total to the point where you can just pressure them with straight-up burn.
Yeah, the very important thing here, well, for Warlock is that if they have that turn 4 clear, ideally Hellfire, but Spellstone would suffice. However, WaningMoon hit the early counter spell, so this means he gets one extra turn to go even wider and have no punish in sight. Second counter spell even. So
yeah.
If Hearthstoner were to pick up Hellfire the turn after, he's forced to use the Spellstone, it still means he can't get through the boards.
Yeah.
This is insane.
And he's just got to cross fingers that it works, and I don't think it will. So he's going to take at least 9.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, he's got lethal
right here?
He's got lethal. Arcane Missiles is so much damage.
Yeah, you go for that. And then the second counter spell, you know that, yeah, it's just over.
One of these is not like the other, because one of these goes face. But WaningMoon's just going to stop and at least, you know, evaluate, is there any use of taking Polymorph in the case that my opponent sets up a big Void Lord in the way?
Well, the thing is, Hearthstoner to cheat out an early Void Lord, it can't happen until 2 turns from now, in which case WaningMoon will have the lethal anyway. But, oh, goes for it.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
If he can't win next turn, let's say his opponent clears the board now, right? If he has like Mortal Coil Hellfire.
Okay, yeah, that would
How
be
does he
the
do
only
it? But then he's already lost the board anyways. So then why does he need Polymorph to push damage?
Yeah, exactly. So if the board clear were to come down, that means that the Arcane Missiles just finishes it off. So I actually really disagree with the pick there, but it doesn't matter because sometimes Secret Mage just draws the nuts, and those are the games that kind of make Warlock look bad, even though it's really not.
It happens when you know, the series is playing in a tournament and you want to go to Game 5. So it happens to me on ladder a lot. I don't know why, but whenever I play Secret Mage, I feel like I draw the nuts, and whenever I play against Secret Mage, it feels like they draw the nuts. I'm not sure how to explain it. It's like you know, they have Mana Worm and Cabal Lackey very often. And I was talking about this with Saddle too. It feels like when you play Spiteful Priest, you always draw Northshire Cleric also on turn 1, even though it's like the only one drop in your deck. Crazy.
These decks have some sort of voodoo installed in them, and that's why a lot of people like to bring them. But now that means that I believe only the Paladin is left for WaningMoon.
Yes, it is a cube Warlock against Murloc Paladin. So it is WaningMoon is not out of the woods just yet. Cube Warlock, or just in general Control Warlock, cut its teeth in Knights of the Frozen Throne when Defile came out to really crush a lot of those strategies, and it really feasted on Murloc Paladin back then. Murloc Paladin has since gained some power with Call to Arms, lost a little bit with the nerf to Warlock World Leader, but still largely board-centric. And Warlock picked up even more removal tools with Spellstones and has really good, strong defenses. Does Hearthstoner have a lot of ways to fight against the Warlock? Or sorry, WaningMoon, does he have a lot of tools to fight against the Warlock? Like
Sure.
Spellbreakers?
You mentioned Defile from the Warlock side. Of course, Defile and Hellfire are the most important cards to deal with the board, but WaningMoon has teched in double Spellbreaker, I guess with the Warlock matchup in mind. So if an early Void Lord were to come down, then WaningMoon still has game against that. So I feel he just needs to be able to land like an early either Rockpool Hunter or Cold Light Seer to get his initial board out of range of a full Hellfire Defile clear.
I think WaningMoon actually. I think we might have the
Oh,
deck list
sorry,
messed up.
sorry.
Yeah, WaningMoon actually does not have Spellbreakers.
Oh, okay.
He's playing double Fungal Mancers and Bluegill Warriors, which you see in his hand right now.
All right, so that makes things very different.
And he kept Skull Minari Voidlord. This is the only time you ever keep Voidlord is when you have Skull in the hand, and Skull is one of the highest win rate mulligan cards in Hearthstone right now. Just so powerful with if it can just pull out one demon, let alone two. He's got Cabal Lackey and Dark Pact to rebound, even if WaningMoon somehow got past Voidlord without Spellbreaker.
He even misses the crucial turn 1 Murloc, which might have been one of the few ways he could snowball the early damage to just kind of get there, but oh man.
That's game. Wait, from our perspective, I mean, there is this possibility that WaningMoon has just like this unstoppable combo, but look at this recognition from Hearthstoner. He knows that he has every tool he needs to win the game. Skull Minari will pull out the Void Lord, then he can just cube it and Dark Pact for double Void Lord action, and then has another ability to pull out another Void Lord or Doomguard with his Possessed Lackey and Dark Pact number 2.
Right, we first saw this kind of hold the tap against Murloc Paladin play recently from Surrender at the World Championship, and people were like, wow, incredible recognition. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You don't even need Hellfire in this case when your opponent failed to hit the 1-drop. So there's just no reason to put yourself further into the range of some kind of surprise lethal.
Yeah, and let me tell you, Life Tap is basically broken. You know, it's so strong. It creates archetypes by itself, and you're not even using it. Like that's like the reason to play Warlock, because you just want to draw cards, and he's not doing it 2 turns over. This is a fantastic spot here by Hearthstoner, just recognizing, yeah, I have everything I need. Now, WaningMoon, what does he need? He has a Gentle Megasaur with, you know, some big damage possibilities. There's that Wind Fury, and Divine Shield keeps his minions alive against any kind of AoE clear, but he's seeing that Hearthstoner is refusing to tap. So what does that communicate to you? Is it more that he has removal tools, or he has more threats like the Void Lords?
I feel like you are equally scared of Coin Hellfire as you like last turn as you would have been for Coin Skull this turn, and Hellfire wasn't that good, so it could still be playing in WaningMoon's mind. So can definitely respect the Divine Shield pick there. However, if he had taken Wind Fury and then gotten a War Leader top deck, that might have been one of the few ways he could still cheese out the game.
I mean, there's also a possibility he could cheese by playing Call to Arms first and then hitting a Megasaur, or perhaps the Fungal Mancer, which just came to the hand. Now, that's a lot of pressure here.
Yeah, at least we got to see it, and it's really the lack of Spellbreakers which makes this so annoying for WaningMoon.
Oh, wait, and hold on. Hearthstoner actually drew Doomguard.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That can complicate things.
If that gets pulled out, well, yeah, he won't have the mana next turn for Cube plus Pack, so the Doomguard will essentially only be clearing 1 minion. So this could be a 50-50 for the game.
No!
Oh my goodness!
Wow, good on Hearthstoner to not react emotionally.
Yeah.
Staying in the zone.
Yes, he just plays.
Yeah, he just heals.
Yeah, heal, and then
can't get into
next
file
turn,
clear.
yeah, it'll be all good.
Might have to agree to disagree on all good. This is still a really strong board.
Yeah,
Double Juggler.
Juggler, Call to Arms. Okay, so once the Void Lord hits the board, he can then cube pack that one. So I still think it's all good. It's just gonna be a bit annoying for WaningMoon. I mean, rather for Hearthstoner to deal with board after board. So how is WaningMoon gonna deal with essentially 3 Void Lords?
He has 2 Jugglers. chooses to go Call to Arms instead, and it makes sense. Just as much board pressure while improving your draw, so you can get God, I can't remember the legendary names.
Tarim? Yeah.
Tarim. I was gonna call him Tal'Darim, which is a StarCraft term. Because I'm like talking about juggler possibilities there, but you just get Sunkeeper Tarim and you're just gonna wreck him.
That's very true.
Or is he? I mean, this is the cube turn that we were looking at.
Yeah, I was thinking if there's some possibility for juggler shenanigans if you packs, but if you pack, then you remove the juggler lethal, but Hearthstoner doesn't pack here.
Oh man!
I was thinking that was cube packed every day of the week.
Wait! What's happening here? He can have the same exact thing,
but with 8 more health and 3 Void Walkers.
Right. Hold on.
What? Okay.
So if he trades in 4 minions.
And then plays the other juggler and the other Call to Arms.
Right.
So it's like a bunch of 33%, and he needs to hit four of those. I mean, you go for it. What else can you do?
And you have to make sure that you spread the damage too, right? So it doesn't overkill, because the jugglers can't overkill.
Yeah, true. If you like put all the damage into one Void Lord, it could possibly kill it. So trade into the 3/8, and then play Call to Arms.
Yes. So he's gonna.
Wait, that one's not gonna kill.
Yeah. So he wants to soften up as much as he can, and then play Call to Arms. Oh wait,
no. Wait, you don't soften it up that much because that creates more targets.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, what is going on? And also we can.
He's gonna win anyway, isn't he?
No,
he didn't. Wait.
Yeah, it's still green, so it's not over. But my brain hurts. Is he prioritizing getting rid of one Void Lord for the following turn over trying to get the lethal that turn? I guess that's the only thought process that I could understand, but I disagree with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously prioritizing the fact his opponent doesn't have board clear, except he really does. He has just a Defile clear right now. He's going to draw first because, definitely doesn't want to get called out by chat.
Very clean. Okay, you could also go for the play which should have happened a couple turns ago, or last turn.
Yes.
And yeah, because both Call to Arms have been used, I don't think there's any chance for even like a Miracle 1 in 7 many times over.
But then Tarim is a real punish in this position because you're not actually getting that many Void Walkers either. And then the jugglers can take, you can take the trades first and then play that. But I don't know. This is gotten really weird.
Very weird. Yeah, weird is an understatement.
How is Paladin still in this game? It really isn't though because of Defile. But wait, is that the Divine Spirit one? No.
Yeah, Divine Shield. Yeah, Purifier, right? So
might be right.
If he plays that, and there still has to be some sort of Defile clear here with all the 1 health, 1 attack minions.
Yes, you have to play around that somehow, but I don't think you can. Because Divine Shield only essentially adds 1 health to your minions.
And if it adds 1 to everything, it's basically the same thing.
Not to mention that he's softening up.
Yeah, so I guess WaningMoon is thinking here, I can't beat Defile, so I don't play around it, but this is going to be the beginning of the end, because Hearthstoner has yet another Void Lord to follow all this up. What's this going to be, the 4th or the 5th one? Yeah, I really think WaningMoon missed his window for lethal there. Granted, it wasn't that high because he needed to win 4 1-in-3s.
Well, that's would he have to win 4 1-in-3s? Because if he softened everything to 1 health, the Knife Jugglers wouldn't overkill until Call to Arms resolved.
Oh,
right?
Really?
Isn't that the case?
I'm not sure of
Did Death
the
Rails
order
resolve
of that.
halfway like Defile?
I'm actually not sure.
I thought if you put everything to 1, and then summon everything, and then you guarantee get 6 juggles, and he was at 4, that's lethal. But I don't think I think that was the case, right?
Yeah, I guess we'd have to double check how the mechanic on that works. But if you're correct, then that was actually just a mistake.
I'm going to text Disguised Toes right now, my best man on the job, to break the game for me real quick and figure out whether or not that was an opportunity for WaningMoon to guarantee lethal, assuming that Death Rails don't resolve midway, similar to Defile. I mean, that could be the case. And there has been some order changes in recent patches to how combat stays resolved.
Yeah, with Pyromancer and things
Right.
like that. Yeah, so we're just going to be excusing ourselves from talking about the game here because it's now just going through the motions for Hearthstoner. But I actually don't think there is a way to put both Void Lords to 1 health. Because you play second juggler was already on board, right? So you play the other call to arms, so that's like 6 juggles you need to get to face if all of them are already at 1 health, if the both Void Lords were. But I'm not sure
he
how
could
much
have. I
damage
think he
he
could have. I mean, at least he could have definitely put 1 to 1 health, and then the other 2 attack and the 1 attack minions could have gotten to the 4/4. Yeah. Okay. So there's a Void Lord that was a 4/5. And there's a Void Lord that was a 4/4. There's a Bluegill Warrior, a 1/3, and two 4 attack minions that didn't attack yet.
Oh, okay. So in that case, maybe it could have been done. So
Assuming the battle resolves that way, I mean, we could be just completely wrong on how it resolves, but that's going to wrap up the series. And a bunch of what-ifs might be going through the players' minds just as well as ours, but after it's all been said and done, Hearthstoner has upset WaningMoon. If you can really call it an upset, his lineup was favored head-to-head, but at least in terms of tournament resume.
Yeah. So the kid moves on and gets the right to remain a bit cocky.
Yeah.
And WaningMoon moving to the losers bracket. I hate to see that, but it's actually a pattern that we're seeing that aside from Angry Carp, it's been the A and Z player to move on as opposed to the APAC or non-APAC player in the case of Hot Meowth.
I want to say something about the history of HCT through 2018 so far, and it's a very brief one. It's the fact that we've had 2 tour stops, and in both of those tour stops, someone from that country won.